just sit? Can I just do it with just a chair right there? Just the closest distance. I know it seems so ridiculous. I don't think it seems ridiculous.
It does not.
The problem, the reason they're
Thank you.
so sexy is because it's just like naked foot like Cinderella, but there's no platform. So if your phone is hitting wood, it is. It's actually really cool. And I did it for 12 hours.
Hey besties, welcome back to my channel. There's been a mystery that's been a part of this case for almost a year. Ever since Wayfair filed a lawsuit against Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and Leslie Sloan in the New York Times, and they filed an amended complaint in February of 2024, there was this text message between Alex Sachs and Jamie Heath. One where there was a name that had been blacked out of someone that had given them advice about Blake. And a lot of people were speculating, like, who is this person that contacted them? It was a text message where Alex was expressing frustration with her constant script rewrites. It's from May 1st. She says, "Are you listening to this?" She's fixing the script. "I think Blake's advice, blank as in black, it's blacked out, redacted, was actually wrong. Blake is now directing the movie. This is bad. I'm listening. Talking through it is better than not seeing what's possible, as long as any decision is done with approval." Alex responds, "Not for something that was already intimately planned. This will be every day of the shoot." A producer's job is to manage like the time, the budget, make sure everything goes smoothly. Alex is concerned about keeping the project on track. Jamie says, "I know. I'm not sure what can be done, honestly, at this point in terms of Blake." When this came out, everyone started speculating and going through the archives of Justin's podcast and looking through their, social medias to see if Justin had spoken to anyone that knew Blake that might have provided advice to them. They found a podcast with Paul Feig, and so obviously they assumed that Paul must have been the one to give the advice. Paul had worked with her on A Simple Favor, and following the wrapping of this film, On It Ends With Us, she went to film the sequel, Another Simple Favor. But it wasn't Paul Feig. No. In fact, Justin Baldoni just revealed this in deposition transcripts that were unsealed. And in the transcripts that have come out from Justin's deposition, I won't say that Justin's a perfect person. I will not say that he managed the situation perfectly. I think this was an extremely high stress environment. I think there was a lot of cooks in the kitchen. I think there were a lot of people that saw him as an opportunity because he is a relatively new director. His studio is relatively new, and they had a very valuable IP of It Ends With Us. And I think that Blake and her friends saw an opportunity to pounce. And nothing is more evident to me than who it was they used to weasel and manipulate Baldoni. It was Shawn Levy. How did the situation become that Justin Baldoni, who through his own sworn testimony under deposition, under oath, said that when he purchased the IP for It Ends With Us, the original decision was that he would direct the film? With a shifting tide in society and a push for females telling their stories and having female voices as directors, there was a period in time where Justin said they considered finding a female director. Ultimately, because it was his IP and because it was his company and it was his original plan to direct the movie, he decided he would direct the film. He had purchased the IP before the movie and before the book became such a massive success. And then a lot of people became interested in his IP. And a lot of the people that got involved clearly believed that he was not qualified to own that IP, that they were the ones that should be owning that IP. One person that came into the mix before the Shawn Levy call happened was Alex Sachs. This is a woman that Justin had known for a while, and he approached her about possibly joining the production. But Alex has a problem. You see, Alex was part of a production company called June Pictures. And in 2017, her business partner, Andrew Duncan, was accused of sexual harassment by over a dozen people. And the sources claimed that Alex knew about his behavior for over a year before he left the company. And then she later took sole ownership of June Pictures and bought out his shares. Duncan denied the allegations, and he attributed it to rivals and a cynical advantage of the news climate. And Alex said that when the allegations arose, the company was tarnished, and she felt it was necessary to take sole control to protect the film. She bought out his shares, but then eventually, due to what happened, it shut down. So this is a woman that seemingly covered up rampant sexual harassment. Someone that probably didn't deserve a second chance. And she got a second chance with Justin. And she brought in Blake and she connected them to Sony. And everything spiraled from there. Sometimes in Hollywood, it's about who you meet. And sometimes the people you meet are not the right people. And sometimes when you have valuable IP, you are a moving target. Alex saw an opportunity to get her name on a big film. She's done smaller, like independent films, but this was a big moment for her. And she felt entitled to being the PGA, which she was. And with Blake's involvement and high profile name and Sony coming on, it elevated this to a level that this film was never going to be before. But that brought in a new set of problems because it brought in a lot of people in Hollywood that saw money. That's my opinion. So early on in the production, Justin had conversations with Blake that apparently offended Blake. He needed to prepare for a lift scene and he asked her trainer about what her weight was. According to Blake and to Justin's testimony, when they first met, Blake was very pregnant and they were speaking about her having a son and they were speaking about circumcision of babies. And apparently, Justin offered that he was circumcised. Gottlieb said, "Did she ask you if you were?" And he said, directly, no. Meaning, kind of like indirectly, they were probably talking about it. And when you're talking about circumcising a baby boy, it's a pretty big topic. This was a conversation my husband and I had with a lot of people trying to decide what to do because it's not a minor little procedure. There's complications that can happen and parents want to make informed decisions. And this was her first boy. And that's now that he talked about his genitals with her. Justin was definitely green and he was taken advantage of. But Shawn's place here is, let's talk about it. During the depositions, there's been a lot of conversation about recorded calls. And apparently, Justin and Jamie were feeling a little bit paranoid about what was going on. And they felt the need, they needed to document everything. And sometimes that included recording phone calls, something they didn't generally do. And they didn't share this information with anyone. It was only a part of this discovery. And one of the calls that they recorded was a call with Shawn Levy. And Gottlieb says, "Who is Shawn Levy?" And Justin says, "He's a director and apparently very close friend of Miss Lively and Mr. Reynolds." "What do you recall about the call?" "I recall that he wanted to speak to me. And as we began, I got the feeling that he was calling to kind of adjust or course correct, which made me feel a little uncomfortable." Gottlieb: "Adjust or course correct from what?" "I didn't know." "What do you mean when you say adjust or course correct? Just explain to me a little bit more, please." "I felt like he was being asked to call me, like he wasn't just calling to talk or check in." "And what was he calling you about?" "The movie. It ends with us." "And Miss Lively. Was he calling you about the tensions that were arising in relation to the movie?" "Justin: No." "So what about the movie It Ends With Us was he calling you about?" "He was calling to give me advice, it appeared, on how to handle or navigate making a movie with Miss Lively." "When in time was this?" "I could be wrong, but I believe it was April of 23. "Where were you located when you recorded the call?" "At my office in New Jersey." "Where was he located when he was speaking to you on the call?" "I don't know." "Did you inform him that you were recording the call?" "I did not." So they recorded calls, one with Angie Janetti, one with Shawn Levy. Jamie recorded one with WME and with Danny Greenberg. And Justin said in his testimony that there were just all these little things that kept happening from on the set. him getting like little things he said were getting blown out of proportion, to having Ryan scream in his face. Shawn's calling him, and little by little, after that April 23 conversation with Shawn, on May 1st, Alex tells Jamie Heath, I think what blank told us was wrong. She's going to be directing the film. This is bad. Within the span of a couple days, they took the advice of Shawn on how to handle Blake. Can we just talk about how inappropriate this is? This is an incredibly gross overstep of authority by Shawn, and it's a complete violation and unethical because he's interfering in a film that he has nothing to do with. He is acting as though he is just giving advice, but a film set operates with a clear structure where the director has like the sole responsibility and authority for managing the cast's performance. And an outside director has zero authority in the context of that film. And him intervening and telling him how to handle an actress and deal with her and how to work with her, it's a betrayal of professional boundaries. It's undermining his authority and telling Justin he's not skilled enough to handle Blake. It's undermining his position because that advice directly undermined the on-set credibility of Justin and the authority in the eyes of the actress Blake, the crew, and also the producers. And trust is super big when it comes to an actor-director relationship. So from Justin's point of view, he said he felt like Shawn was being asked to call him by Blake and Ryan, meaning that Blake and Ryan didn't believe that Justin had the capabilities to do this job and he needed help from someone more experienced. But the problem is the advice that Shawn gave is ultimately what they did to work with Blake, which was concede and give her power and give her a voice and give her a say, which led to constant rewrites with the script and Ryan taking over the script. And that call by Shawn happened not long after Baldoni rejected the rooftop scene. So when Shawn calls, he's basically telling Justin, we don't think that you're able to do this. And then the advice followed helps Blake take over the film. But this is a complete and utter breach of the norms within the industry as well, because the ethics in film industry dictate that communication about a film production goes through proper channels. And so Shawn is directly interfering in a business. And Blake and Ryan are asking him to interfere in a business. And Shawn is doing this as like from one director to another. But the problem is that they took his advice and it gave Blake control of the film and it completely upended the authority that had been established on the set. Because the advice was, give her a say, let her rewrite the script, let her be an author, let her have collaboration, whatever it was. And so Justin began empowering her and he compromised himself based upon that professional, non-professional input of Shawn. And his hierarchy in the film collapsed very early on. So he's got Shawn telling him, let her rewrite the script. She does. And little by little, she takes all of these steps to gain further and further control and undermining like his confidence, making him feel like everything he says is wrong. And then the creative vision ultimately changes. And it's all these little things that are happening at the same time. And it's like he's walking on eggshells constantly because he never knows if he's going to say something wrong or do something wrong. And they're keeping him off balance by getting offended by things that nobody in this world would ever be offended by. And during the deposition with Justin, it was obvious that Gottlieb was gaslighting him about his own experience and was like, you really think that she made up these claims of sexual harassment to take control of the film? You really think that? And then when Justin would try to like ground himself, he would be like, well, sir, her 17-point agreement did give her access to certain cuts of this film and we couldn't, release the movie without her cut. And hanging over my head, Mr. Man, is that she, if I don't do what she says, could throw this nuclear bomb out into the media, that I'm a bad person. And Justin appears to be someone that's very sensitive, highly reactive, neurodivergent. He has anger issues, which pop up on the set of a highly charged film. He yells at people sometimes, which happens on sets. But there were these people like Shawn interfering. And then add in Alex Sachs, who, according to text messages that she is sending other people on the set, is telling everyone that Justin and Jamie are narcissists and dangerous, and they're rewriting history, and they're not taking accountability for what they've done. Miss Alex, who failed to help women before, more than a dozen people that she failed to help before and lost an entire company before because of her negligence and helping cover up sexual abuse or sexual harassment, is now suddenly like the world's advocate and is viewing every tiny thing as sexual harassment that needs to be corrected immediately. And then she's sending text messages to Angie Janetti within days of this film even beginning to be produced, telling Angie we need a new director. And Angie saying that will never happen. Wayfair will not allow it. Sony wanted a new director. They wanted the film. Alex wanted to be the PGA in the head. Shawn Levy wanted to help Blake and Ryan take over a film franchise. And Justin Baldoni took the advice, and that advice from Shawn upended his authority. And then he had a producer on his set that was undermining his authority by running around telling everyone that he was a narcissist and dangerous. I'm starting to think that so many people involved in this were bad people. And what's ironic is that the real narcissist in this situation is Ryan Reynolds and his wife, Blake Lively, like malignant personas. I think a lot of people in Hollywood have narcissistic traits, but not every person that has narcissistic traits has narcissistic personality disorder. And Justin doesn't strike me as the kind of person that is a narcissist. I think they could use the term narcissist to try to play into his vulnerabilities. He seems to be the kind of person that feels a lot of shame and disappointment in himself when he doesn't live up to the expectations of what people believe he should be. And when he makes mistakes, he genuinely feels very badly and immediately apologized. That is not something a narcissist would ever do. But it's clearly obvious here that relatively benign instances were being weaponized against him. And Blake and Ryan not only just used Taylor Swift, but they used Shawn to usurp his power and his control. And this is a terrible look for Shawn. Shawn had no business calling Justin and giving him advice. Shawn went out the bounds of all ethics and professional standards in the film industry with directors. Shawn had no business talking to a director of a production he has no involvement in and telling him how to manage and deal with an actress. It is highly offensive to think about this as a woman. Imagine it's you and Shawn Levy is calling your boss and telling your boss how to handle you because you're not the easiest to be handled, and how to work with you and how to collaborate with you. Imagine you need a man to tell another man how to deal with you. It's offensive. It's sexist. And it deserves no place in a civilized society for anybody to interject themselves into a production that they have nothing to do with, and then that advice flips the entire power structure in the film. I mean, when we saw that text, we saw what was happening, right? We knew at that point, and then the film rewrites and the scripts. And then it culminates on January 4th when they have that hands-on meeting after Blake has been accusing him of doing shit that he hadn't done or overinflating what he has done. And Baldoni testifies that Ryan Reynolds screams in his face that his script was a disaster and he was saving his film from disaster. And this was revealed when Justin was asked about Steve wanting to flip the narrative back to Mr. Reynolds after a article leaked about Ryan Reynolds rewriting the script and the rooftop scene. Justin says, I believe I was doing was passing on a message from my partner, Steve, who relayed to me after reading a story that appeared to be in response from something Miss Lively said on her own. She was not even asked about whether or not her husband wrote a scene. And then, because of that, received a lot of negative backlash, as did Mr. Reynolds, because why would Mr. Reynolds be a WGA writer writing a scene in someone's movie that he's not credited for? And so Steve, seeing Mr. Reynolds' apparent leak that the script was a disaster, which seemed like he was trying to save his own image in that moment, asked me to pass on to Melissa and Jen that an idea could be presented, which would be flipping this narrative that our movie was a disaster to begin with. And this, again, was a purely defensive conversation. There was an offensive move done to say that our script was originally a disaster. And we are implying that this could happen. We did not say, go do it. I don't, unless you have something where I did. And Gottlieb says, do you have your characterized these offensive and defensive, yet you've admitted that you have absolutely no idea whether Mr. Reynolds ever said that the movie was a disaster that he saved. Justin says, untrue. I do know what he said. You know that he said the movie was a disaster that he saved? Justin says, yes. Okay, and how do you know that? He said it at the January 4th meeting in person to my face. So it comes full circle by January 4th. That hands-on meeting was Ryan humiliating Justin, reminding Justin who he was, telling Justin his film was a disaster, letting him know that he was going to save the movie, and Justin was just going to take it. And it's Ryan who put all these wheels in motion. He plants Shawn Levy to tell them about how to deal with Blake. Blake starts conflating all these accusations about sexual harassment. Jenny Heath gets invested in the same shtick, teaming up with Blake. They get Alex Saxon on this event, running around telling everyone Justin's a narcissist. And then after serious narcissistic abuse, you can start to feel like you're crazy. And you might start to question your own reality. And you might start to think you did something you didn't do because the narcissist and the megalomaniac and the psychopath will make you believe that the most ridiculous things are the most egregious offenses. I am not saying that Justin Baldoni is perfect, but this is obviously a hostile takeover. And Shawn Levy's involvement needs to be widely published. It needs to be all over every newspaper because this is unethical, it's unprofessional. He should not be involved in any productions. He should be fired from Netflix. He should never work again. And what's the benefit for Shawn Levy? Well, I'll tell you simple. The summer before, Barbie and Oppenheimer were released, and the two movies together grossed so much money. And they wanted to replicate another Barbie and Oppenheimer situation. And so if they could get Blake and Ryan releasing films side by side, they could re-emulate what happened the summer before. So he had a stake in the hijacking of the film. No director has any right to interfere on another production. Ryan and Blake should never work again. And what is sad is today, all of the headlines are Justin Baldoni told Blake he was circumcised. Justin Baldoni and all the women hated him. Justin Baldoni made Jenny Slate uncomfortable because he called her pants sexy for her wardrobe. Justin Baldoni's all the ladies on the set hated him because he wouldn't let them be in charge. This is a calculated takeover of organized chaos created at the hands of a skilled psychopath that's pitting everyone against the director. Was Justin overwhelmed? Yes. Did Justin bring on the wrong people? Yes. Did everyone take advantage of him? Yes. Does he have responsibility in some of the things he said? Yes. But did he do what they said he did? No. The real headline is Ryan Reynolds and Shawn Levy. So tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, besties.